Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. But we are rejoined by the man himself, Mr. Logan Professor Paulson. How are you doing on this beautiful Friday evening down in Kansas City?
I'm good, man. Just got off the plane. Easy trip, get on the team charter. Really lucky that happened. So easy peasy. Charter bus, hotel.
It's fairly obvious that you are the busiest man in Washington, D.C. right now. What do you think that says about our political spectrum? I'm just kidding.
Oh, dude, just walking that line. But Logan, I have to get your opinion on this because the title of this episode is The Commanders and Chiefs. And I want to get your opinion on Carson Wentz. There's a lot of talk about Carson and his snaps for tomorrow. So how long do you expect him to be out there and playing? And then also, could you give us an update on him at camp? Because it seems that that's been quiet the past couple of days.
Yeah, so I think Ron wanted to play everybody a half, but I think there's been some injuries at guard, which people have been talking about, and I think have been reported on, and that's really going to affect, I think, how much he plays in the game. Quite frank, to be quite honest, because
he should.
Yeah, I don't think you want him out there with a bunch of guys who haven't played a ton together, right? You got Sadiq playing left guard, you got Cosman playing right guard, and you got Lucas playing right tackle, and Chase Roulier is on a pitch count. So I think the second Chase Roulier leaves the game, I would imagine that Carson and the rest of that one offense would probably kind of also depart as well. So whatever Chase's pitch count is for the game, I think that's going to kind of dictate how many people are going to be, how long that group's going to be playing. Then Carson at camp, I think he's done a really nice job. I think he's looked good the past, I don't know, about 10 days or so, quite honestly, which is pretty good. And I think, it's tough to give a full evaluation because they're doing more carded periods in practice where they're kind of walking through looks for the different teams. So, in that stuff, he's looked sharp, throwing good footballs and finding the open man. So all good things and stuff that you weren't necessarily seeing early in training camp.
Right. And flipping to the other side of the ball, a lot of, hype was made about the third down defense and how the defense played in Carolina. What are you looking specifically for this defense coming out against Kansas City, with all the starters at least?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole thing with the third down was a little overblown because I think when you watch the film and you kind of evaluate position by position, you feel really good about what those guys were putting on film. They were playing physical up front. They were creating good pressures. The linebackers looked good. Even the communication in the back end looked good. It was probably just a handful of kind of missteps that led to conversions. And I think it's important for people to understand that. So obviously, I'm going to keep an eye on, whether they get some of that stuff corrected. Some of that stuff is pretty straightforward. Danny Johnson's leverage on what I call an arches concept, where you get number 3 crossing the formation, number 2 kind of running like a big slant. And, he's got to know where his help is and kind of work to funnel that player to his help and play his correct leverage. And I think that that's something that, maybe he didn't have a ton of experience with the ones. I know our offense doesn't run that formation, doesn't run that play out of that formation a ton. So something kind of new for him. And then obviously the communication with Cam Crow and Cole Holcomb. I think that's something that would have been solved had they been game planning more acutely for the Carolina Panthers. But, those are things that I want to see get corrected, and even though it doesn't really matter in the first preseason game, it's good to it's a good marker of where the group is at.
Yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on the first 3rd and 4 that they gave. I know we're supposed to be talking about Kansas City, but I wanted to get your opinion on it because to me it looked like it almost like half the defense or some of the defense was playing man, the other was playing zone because it looked like Jamin Davis went with his guy and then Cam Curl exited his zone, which opened up the middle for the crosser.
What do you think he is? Rain Man, a beautiful mind? Do you think he remembers that far back?
Yeah,
focus on today.
I do remember that play because I watched a bunch. But
okay, Sean McVay, Logan Paulsen.
So what I would say is that diagnosing defenses is very, very challenging, right? Okay. Because it changes based on formation, it changes based on personnel, it changes based on route concept, right? So in that, they might be running I think they were running some type of cover 6 or quarters. Okay. And in that, Jamin might have the flat player. And if the flat player runs vertically, he's going to carry that guy. So it's going to look like man, but they're going to be passing off stuff inside. And so I remember I had a conversation with with a safeties coach. This was during the draft. And I was like, I can't really tell the difference between your cover six, your palms, your quarters. And he's like, neither can we sometimes. We don't know until we look at the sheet, just because it changes so quickly based on these other variables we just talked about. So I think that's important for people to understand. Like when people are like, oh, they're in this coverage 100%. I think, you're probably full of malarkey, because like you don't know. And so that's what I would say. Like, I don't know the coverage. It looked like a mental mistake, because like in practice, they do usually pass crossers.
Yeah.
And Cam Curl has played probably more safety than he has Buffalo nickel. And he was playing a lot of Buffalo nickel in this game. So that's one of the things that happens when, guys are, it's not a new position for him, but just getting more reps against a different look, against a different personnel.
Thank God. I thought I was just dumb when it came to coverages and stuff. It's good to know that nobody knows it. Not even Malik Willis. You can't learn. That was a callback to like 2 months. Probably to like March or April. Yeah, no, I have a beautiful mind, some would say, I think. Antonio Gibson, what's going on, man? If you get into one of these slumps, other than what can you do aside from holding onto the ball? We know that he's got to work on that, but what can he do to get over this mentally? I mean, being demoted from a second round fantasy draft pick, special teams, third string.
I mean, I do think this is kind of overblown, honestly. Like, yes, he did fumble. Yes, that's a big deal. He's looked good in camp. He had a nice week of practice. They were kind of using him as a, motioning him out of the backfield, lining him up a receiver. He made some nice plays, doing that stuff on slants, on, quick return routes. He beat a linebacker for a go, which would have been an explosive play. So obviously, still featured in the offense, still part of this offense. And, quite frankly, like when they drafted Brian Robinson, I think I might have talked about this with you guys. Like, I thought his role might change. I thought it might be something different. I thought they might be trying to find ways to get him the ball in different situations, like special teams. Like I was talking about this with Santana earlier in the offseason. We were saying, who's the returner going to be? And I was like, why not Gibson?
He was really good in college. Yeah.
That's where he excels, like getting the ball in space and being creative, right? I think one of the things that he struggled with as a runner is the structure that you have to run with, right? You have to kind of set up blocks. You have to run within the confines of the run. And that's not really who he is all the time, right? He's gotten better at that for sure. But I think this might be a good thing for the team, right? I think him getting the lion's share of the carries and run situations doesn't necessarily fit what he does well. Like, he's a space player, find ways to get him the ball in space. Kick returns, punt returns. He hasn't done punt returns in practice, but I would advocate for that. Based on what I've seen of his tape from college and what I've seen of him in the NFL. Right. And then I would also say, like, use him in the pass game the way that they have this past week. I think that suits him more. And I think Brian Robinson's, probably the best pure runner on the team. And, everyone says, oh, Gibson was demoted. I just kind of think this serves as a catalyst for something that was already kind of, there were whispers around the building about that already. So again, I think it's a little overblown. The only way I know how to correct it is just get reps with it, right? And it's the first time, to be fair to Gibson, that he was actually tackled this entire offseason, right? Falling to the ground. That doesn't happen in practice and training camp. They don't do that really anymore. Certain teams do. The Lions do it, obviously. He's a hard knock.
Dan Campbell's a man.
Yeah. Right.
He's biting kneecaps and shit.
Right. Absolutely. But I do think that there's something to that, right? So, if he fumbles this one time in preseason and never again for the rest of the season, like, I do think it's overblown, right? If he fumbles again tonight or tomorrow, like, obviously, what's going on? And, he's not going to play a lot of football for this team if that's going to continue to happen. But
yeah,
it's one play, one fumble. It's his first fumble, quite frankly, of the whole offseason. So I'm not sure that, he hasn't worked on fixing it. So, we'll see how that goes, obviously. But from a football standpoint, I'm not sure that it's a bad thing that his role is changing.
Right. So your advice to him is just be yourself, Antonio. You're a good guy. We got a feeling it'll all work out. And if you need to do some soul searching and find yourself and what you're good at, that's okay too.
Yeah. And I
think it's funny because, like, fans, I think fans oftentimes forget that these guys are people, and like people make mistakes. And like, I'm sure on this podcast, you guys have made mistakes and
no, surprisingly never.
So maybe everyone else has, but I know I've made mistakes on your podcast before. And then, but when you're playing football in the NFL, your mistake is shown to millions of people and everyone's got opinions about it.
Right.
And so it's important to remember that he's like a human being who's got a family and is like trying to provide and trying to make his way. And this is like a big piece of adversity that obviously, is not fun to deal with, but so I'm going to err on the side of being supportive of him as the player and say like, he'll figure it out. And if he doesn't, oh well, but I'm gonna bet on him figuring it out.
Yeah, and I thought Ron Rivera had the perfect explanation by saying, like, basically, you should have always viewed this running back room as a running back by committee. I guess a lot of people were thinking that Antonio Gibson was the bell cow back, right? Where Ron Rivera kind of explained that. But another news that came out this week I thought was very interesting was Scott Turner announcing and Ron Rivera saying that he's going to be calling games from the sidelines
Yeah.
rather than up in the booth upstairs. So I want to get your opinion on that, what you think of it, and why it's a good thing for Scott Turner to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily good or bad. I think it's just preference, right? Like Kyle, when I first was with the team, would call games from the box. And then, later in his career, he called games from the sideline. He said he felt like he could get a better feel for the guys, he could communicate quicker, he got a better vibe for the game, what the defense was doing. And that's just preference. And you need to have someone up in the box that you trust that can see the things that you want them to see. And that's a different kind of relationship. But I don't think it's good or bad. I think if Scott wants to do it and it's going to make him more effective, do it, and I think, like you mentioned, the communication with Carson, I think that's 100% a valid point. But I also think there's other elements that are good, in terms of just being with the guys and kind of feeling the temperature of the offense. But it also hurts you in some ways because you can't see everything you want to see. So he's got to make sure that the person up there in his stead is someone he trusts and someone that has a good communication with. And I think we'll see how that works out over the course of the preseason, obviously.
Definitely. And another guy that was a big focal point coming into this season and this offseason has been Jamin Davis. There's been a lot of reports saying he's had a great camp. He's been looking like a lot better as far as linebacker goes, diagnosing stuff like that. So,
my favorite play last week was him blowing up that fullback. That was beautiful.
Exactly. So what are you looking for what are you looking from Jamin this upcoming Saturday?
I mean, I just don't want to know. I want to know that it's not an anomaly. I want to know that's who he is. I want to know that he's turned in the corner as opposed to still trying to figure it out. Like, it's great to see him play more confident. It's great to see him make more plays in practice. But, like in the same way that Gibson's fumble is one play, like it's one game. And I think it was less than 12 snaps or something like that. So I want to make sure that he carries that energy, carries that enthusiasm I want to know that that's the player he is. And I think that is, and I'm excited for that. Like, there's no one more excited about Jamin Davis playing well in the first preseason week than me, but I want to make sure that that's a continuous thing, right? Because if that's true, this defense has just gotten a lot better.
Yep.
And that's a pretty exciting proposition.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Man.
Yeah, I know. It was so nice to hear Jamin Davis, like people saying that he's playing carefree. He's just flying around and he could finally play his game, which is built off of his athleticism. But your game, Logan, was built as a tight end.
That's true.
I don't know if a lot of people knew that. Yeah, but you're a Hall of Famer. Best ever done. What's going on? This tight end room, we know that they've had a lot of injuries, especially to the young guys. Armani Rogers has really stepped up, it seems. Yeah. Do you still think that he's going to make this team? And how do you see the kind of shaking out with like Samus Reyes, Curtis Hodges, Armani Rogers?
Well, I think Sam East is on IR now, and I think that's
that's right.
An indication of like where he's at and where they kind of regard him in relation to the young guys. I think Curtis Hodges was my guy for a very long time. This offseason has taken that fourth spot.
Bet a lot of money on him because of you.
It feels like Armani is slowly kind of moving ahead of him, and I think one of the reasons that is because he is a very unique athlete in his ability to create mismatches just from like a physicality standpoint. He's 6'5", 235 pounds ish, and he runs a 4.5. Like he runs faster than Cam Sims. So obviously, like having that guy in the field, it kind of to me it's more reflective of where the position is going, right? You want those kind of big converted wide receiver type guys. Obviously, he's a converted quarterback. And I think Curtis Hodges has done a really, really nice job. But for whatever reason, I think Armani just has a little bit more upside. And so I think if you're going to bet on something, I think why not bet on upside, especially for that fourth tight end spot where, you got to cover kicks, you got to run, cover punts, all those types of things. And Curtis has done a great job. He really has. He's done a great job. And any other year, he's probably a lock for the roster. But just because of how deep and athletic those young tight ends are, it's a toss-up. And, he's not playing this week because of a quad injury, which is too bad because I really want both of them to have a fleshed-out competition and see who's going to make it. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think one of them is going to end up on practice squad, which is crazy to think about, but I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, but I mean, also kind of like we saw with Samus last year. Armani Rogers just switched to tight end like this offseason. He's still getting used to it. He's still learning. So to your point, he does have the upside. But did you see who was it? Nathan Jerry, the linebacker, lined up at tight end.
Yeah, they were
practice?
doing that. I mean, that's more for the carded periods in practice. Right. Like they're working through so the defense is working through Kansas City stuff. So you're just trying to make sure that your two tight ends, Eli Wolf and Armani Rogers, are fresh for your offensive periods. They do that in season almost every day because you only have 3 tight ends, and if one of them's hurt, like you don't want to use all your bullets on scout team stuff necessarily. So
right.
I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I can't wait for Tress Way to line up at tight end. That'd be a great picture. But to wrap this up, Logan, I only have a couple more questions for you. One player that stood out to me last week was Jonathan Williams. I thought he made a really good point for himself, running the football very, very hard. How do you think that fourth running back room is shaping out? And then what do you think the snap count percentage is going to be between Jonathan Williams and Jarrett Patterson, who are fighting for that 4th spot tomorrow against Kansas City?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's a fight, to be totally honest with you. I think it's Jonathan Williams to lose at this point. And I think he's earned that. He's earned that entirely. And unfortunately, even though, they've carried 4 running backs in the past, I think they're only going to carry 3 this year because of the situation with the tight end room, and because of the offensive line depth, right? I think you want to keep Chris Paul, which means you got to save a spot somewhere else on the offense. You'll probably keep 10 linemen, and I think 9 or 10. But again, you got to lose that somewhere else. So I think Jonathan Williams, despite his great preseason and his great offseason, quite frankly, he's probably going to end up on practice squad also. And then I don't think that bodes very well for Jarrett Patterson. I don't know if you keep 2 running backs on practice squad. So again, if he's even part of the team, will be a very interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next question I have for you, I want to kind of talk about Sam Howell because last week I would like to see him go against the second-team defense for Kansas City. He had a great game last week. Didn't get going until 3rd series, but it's against the 3rd-team defense. I would like to see how he does against the second-team defense. What did you see from Sam Howell?
So I got crushed for saying this I said this on TV and I said this on my show, and this is just something I believe. Like, Sam Howell had a good game, right? He did a good job. He made plays. But he held the ball for a very long time, right? And usually that does not translate as you move from the 3s to the 2s, the 2s to the 1s, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pressure gets there quickly. You're going to get sacks. You're kind of inviting opportunities for the defense to hit you. The other thing he did is he put the ball in harm's way. To my count, it was 4 times, 4 turnover-worthy plays. I haven't checked out PFF's metrics on that, but again,
they did not grade him well.
Yeah, so that to me was something that stuck out. Again, he did good things. Like, he worked through his progressions, he scrambled, he was competitive, all those things you want to see. But those 2 variables, putting the football in harm's way and holding the football too long, usually are not good indicators for guys who are ready to kind of make the next couple steps. Okay. So as much as I liked how he played, and I enjoyed watching him, and I think he's going to be good in the coming years, I don't think he's ready. And I think, and I don't think he'll play against the 2s because I don't think Ron wants to deal with everyone talking about Sam Howell for the next week playing with the 2s and whether he's going to be better than Taylor Heineke, because right now he's not. I think that the conversation becomes interesting when you say in 2023, when Heineke's contract's up, what do you do with Sam Howell? Then is he your backup? And I think there's a legitimate argument that he will develop into that guy. But yeah, so that's kind of my thought on Sam. And again, I thought he played well, but there were some things about his game that give me pause in terms of saying how ready he is.
And that's exactly why I ask you the question, because you give us the honest and good analysis of the take. I appreciate you for doing that. Last question I have for you. I want to talk about Sam Cosmi, the right tackle. We've talked a lot of these injuries have happened in the interior of the offensive line, but the 2 tackles on the outside have stayed healthy up until this point, knock on wood. Sam Cosmi is poised for a breakout year, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think he is poised for a breakout year. I think he's probably your best offensive lineman at this point, which is pretty cool, for a young guy to say that. Yeah, I think he's
better than Leno.
I think so. I mean, Leno's very technically Leno's awesome, and athletically Leno's very good. He plays with an excellent base, understands punch timing, understands how to mess with defensive ends and rushers, in terms of his set angle and he kind of has different variations of his same pass set, which is awesome. Like that it gives you the advantage. But in terms of athlete and strength and upside, like Cosme is that dude, and I think
his RAS score was like a 9.9 something coming out.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. He's played a lot of football. He's a smart football player. He's a physical football player, and the athleticism shows up all the time. And so obviously this weekend he's going to be playing guard and Lucas is going to be playing tackle, which would be something fun to watch. Cause I went back and like checked my notes from last year, and I had a note right next to his name saying like Cosme would be like an all pro guard. So I kind of want to see how he does there. And again, it's just because he's so athletic and he's so physical. So I think he's poised. Like, people said, oh, like if you had a dark horse for like a Pro Bowl, like Cosme would be my vote, because that's how highly I think of him right now in his playing career. So obviously he needs to grow into that. There's some growth that needs to happen, but in terms of a guy you want to bet on growing into something, I think you bet on him because he's got a lot of experience. He's developed and matured throughout his college career, and he's improved tremendously since he's been here. So a guy that I have a lot of faith in, and I'm excited to watch. I'm a big fan of Cosme.
Yeah, no, me too.
We're going to need to have a great year out of Cosme, given that the pass rushers he's going to be faced with, Mika Persons, and then obviously the first game of the season going against Kayvon Walker and everything. It's going to be tough for Sam Cosme. We're going to need his help.
Trayvon.
What did I say? What did I say?
You say Kayvon.
Oh, my bad. I'm just
it's Kayvon.
We talked about mistakes, Logan. Real quick, very fast.
I was one of those.
Biggest matchup that you're looking forward to tomorrow night versus the Chiefs?
Biggest matchup. I honestly think it's the defense versus the Kansas City offense. And I think one of the reasons why is because the defensive line did a great job rushing the passer in the first preseason game. But now you have a more mobile element. Patrick Mahomes is excellent at doing that. And in the game last year against Kansas City, they had a hard time containing him in the pocket. Ron, one of the things he kept saying about maturity with that group was that they weren't disciplined with their rush lanes. How disciplined are you going to be? This is going to really test you in that regard. And then let's see if those communications and leverage issues from week one that Ron and Jack and everyone was talking about have been cleaned up. And if they have, I think you feel pretty good about where the team is at, and obviously Andy Reid is going to test you. They might not be putting in a full game plan, but they're going to test you and see exactly where you're at with those things. And I think if I'm Coach Ron Rivera, like that's what I want. I want someone who's going to challenge us and challenge our rules and challenge our communication, because I want to know exactly where we're at going into the season.
Yeah, me too. Wholeheartedly agree. And that's why we come to you, Logan, for the best analysis possible. I can't think
that's why we
enough.
always sneak in one last question. All
right, everybody, make sure you go follow Logan Paulsen at Logan_Paulsen82 on Instagram for great film analysis. Also, the Command Center, the YouTube show by the Commanders that Logan's on with Santana and Julie Donaldson. It's a great show. Make sure you go check it out. Logan, go enjoy yourself, sir. Hopefully, I'm not sure if you're going to take a nap or not, but go fuel up, sir, and get some energy.
Got to do some work, man. Got to watch some film. Got to get ready for tomorrow. So I'll rest when I'm dead.
There we go. I'd like to hear that.
Hopefully
right,
that's
Logan.
no time soon. I would be a wreck without you, dog.
Dog.
All right, Logan. Have a good night, brother.
All right,
Appreciate it, man.
All right, boy. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Logan Paulsen. Just phenomenal every time.
Always.
You
Always.
can't
So
replace
much
it.
knowledge.
He stuck around for a little bit his video screen, so I was like, before I say something about him, I gotta wait zip on that here. No, he's cool. He's awesome. He's a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy.
Really
But
nice
I want to
guy.
get you, before we are joined by our next
Too
guest.
nice, some would say.
I wanted to ask you guys on what you think of Scott Turner calling the games from the booth.
Or from the field, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, we're changing that up. My apologies. I'm just having a bad day today, man.
No, I mean, I think it's going to work out well. You can communicate more with Carson Wentz, kind of get instead of just like talking through the headphones and through the. Do they even still use that telephone? They used to call up to the office to the.
They have
before.
to, right?
Yeah,
But
they
either
still
way,
use
you
the
can-
payphone.
They don't.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a payphone.
Unless
But yeah,
they
you
put
can get like
JP
you can
up there
talk
and have
face to
him
face with Carson.
intercept
Kind
satellite
of get what
ears.
he's seeing. Kind of get his mindset, what he's seeing on the field through his eyes, just like face to face. You get to, you can talk to with the rest of the offense as well, not just Carson, to kind of see what the receivers are seeing, ask what the linemen are seeing, talk to the assistant coaches as well, position coaches and whatnot. So I think it's going to be better, and I definitely think that, like everyone said, you get a better view from like the field as far as like the trenches and what you can see and whatnot. So I think it'll work out well, hopefully.
Yep, and now let's get into our fan questions before we are joined by our next guest to break down this game for the game tomorrow against the Chiefs. Reed, I want to go to you first. This question is from the Colonel. Did you see any bubble players make strong roster pushes against Carolina? Any player or players that we should pay close attention to tomorrow against Kansas City?
So I mean, I'm gonna say the one that we talked about on Monday. Stephen Parker, baby. Stephen Parker. Apparently, he's just continued a strong week of practice as well. He's made play after play. You couldn't, when he was on the field on Saturday against Carolina, you couldn't take your eyes off him. The guy was just everywhere. You couldn't not hear his name. And I'm really interested. Safety is relatively thin beyond Cam Curl, Bobby McCain. Like if there's some injuries to some of these guys, you're gonna really be happy to have a guy like Stephen Parker. So I'm excited for him, man. I hope he makes it.
Yeah, dude, he played on like his hair was on fire. He came out ready to go, and that
Suffered
was
third-degree burns too.
No, it was awesome. The hit that he
No, I
came
know,
up
on his
and
head,
laid.
though.
Like that's the kind of player that you want on your defense. You know, when we talked to Fred Smoot on draft night, you know, he talked about we got too many guys that smell like Deacon Cologne. You need some bad
Yeah, you
boys
need
in
some
here.
of them bad boys.
And that's kind of what Parker played like when he came in the game, didn't he? And that was
he
really
smoked cigarettes.
and that was really cool to see. One bubble player that I think makes a strong roster push. Hey, now we are joined by our next guest,
There he
Mr.
is.
Rio Robinson, Hollywood. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, y'all? How y'all feel right now, man?
Feeling good, man. We got a game tomorrow.
Rio, I think this is my first time ever on the Burgundy Zone with you.
Yeah, you've
I think
always
every time you were, I
ducked
was always
me, man.
working. Yeah.
We got low key beef or something. Mike is every time I came
I was
on.
always I would ask beforehand. I'd be like, "Who's on today?" They'd be like, "Rio," and I'd be like, "I'm sick.
good.
I'm gonna be sick tomorrow."
I think I'm gonna work
tomorrow night."
tonight.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have a stomach ache around 5:30, so I don't know if I can make it.
Love that jersey, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
this
Joe,
is
that's
beautiful,
My
isn't it?
mom, my mom made it. Thank you guys.
But Rio, we're answering fan questions, and this one's from the Colonel. I want to get your opinion because Reed just answered. He had Stephen Parker as his pick. So do you see any bubble players making a strong roster push that played well against Carolina that you should probably pay close attention to tomorrow against the Chiefs?
Stephen Parker is definitely the easy answer because he played with his hair on fire the entire time he was out there. Everywhere the ball was is like, who is number 16? Like, I ain't gonna lie, I had to pull out my Commanders app and say, who is this dude? We signed this guy on August 7th, and he already looks like he's been in the defense for a couple years now. But Daniel Wise was balling. Like, he was all over the place as well. He had a sack, might have had a sack and a half, constant pressure, and a guy that probably isn't a bubble guy anymore, considering what the tight end room looks like. Armani Rogers has definitely carved out a role on the final 53, especially considering that Logan is probably going to miss some time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cole Turner's going to start, and they're going to split with Bates, and Armani Rogers is going to be tight end 3 until Logan gets back. So those would be the guys I would answer that question with.
Yeah, that's honestly a great one because we were just talking about Armani Rogers and him kind of taking the job by storm with all those injuries. He's made something of it, right? And if I was going to pick one, I think it's Jonathan Williams, and we just talked about it with Logan, but I think Jonathan Williams played so well in that first matchup last week that I thought that he kind of garnered that ability to be that fourth running back, that pounder, that if you need somebody to come off the bench for you fresh, Jonathan Williams could be able to do that for you. He's still on the bubble, though, like we just heard from Logan. They might only keep 3 running backs because of the injuries to tight ends. So with that being the case, I think it's Jonathan Williams. What do you think?
So Williams over Patterson?
Yeah.
Logan said he didn't even think it's really a question anymore. He was like, which is
I'll go with Jeremy Reeves. I think Jeremy Reeves
one.
had a great camp. He had a great game against Carolina. Obviously, he had the sack last week against Carolina. He's always constantly been a bubble guy, like number 54, number 55 man on the roster.
Yep.
So they put him on the practice squad. I think he finally elevates to that number 53 guy on the roster. And like we've always been talking about, the safety depth behind the 2 starters is kind of iffy at this point. I think Reeves, after being here for a couple of years, Ron Rivera promoted him. He stepped in 2020, did his thing. He definitely knows the system. So I definitely think that Jeremy Reeves is that bubble guy that finally makes the final 53 roster this year.
You calling Jeremy Reeves the bubble boy? That's not cool, man. Rio, this next question is for you, sir. Would we really, in all seriousness, consider Jahan Dotson fielding punts as he's done in practice the past couple days?
No, I don't think he's actually going to return any punt. He may get put out there. He may get the Deshaun Jackson in Philadelphia treatment.
Thank you.
Where
that's what I've been saying.
It's a tie game. It's the fourth quarter, and we need momentum. A spark. Yeah, we need someone to make it. Hell no, he is the starting receiver opposite Terry. You might as well call him 1B at this point, because the offense, we didn't see much of it during the game besides the one play where he drew the flag. But if you've been out to camp, a lot of the focus of the offense is on him as well as Terry and the rest of the guy. It's the Terry Jahan show. No, he's not going to be returning many punts here. I think Alex Erickson and Dax Milne, they can go have at it.
Yeah, I think you explained it perfectly, Rio. Obviously, if he's good at this, he should be able to have that opportunity, especially if the guys that are in front of him keep fumbling the ball away. I want to be able to make sure the ball is in good hands. So let's make sure Jahan's back there, because he's not going to drop it.
Y'all don't want Gibson back there.
Yeah, I saw that argument.
Love Gibson returning kicks.
It's a really smart argument, because when you look at like Antonio Gibson's highlight reel from his career, look at Dallas Cowboys out in space, you look against the Buffalo Bills out in space on the screen,
and his college tape.
He was a good returner in college.
It makes a lot of sense why he would need to be out in space, but putting the ball on the turf is something that is a concern, but that's very hard to do on kickoffs. But that being said, it's still
did that stop Steven Sims?
He muff a punt, it's gonna be over for him.
I know. Oh my God, can you imagine that first punt he sees, he muffs it? Right. He'd be cut right there on the spot. They'd be like, all right, dude.
Now, Reed, I want to go to you with this. Reed, I want to go to this next question. Tim Settle had a blowout performance in his debut with the Buffalo Bills. Losing him in Ioannidis was particularly painful, especially with us not having any type of long-term agreement with Payne. Are we already regretting letting Tim Settle walk?
I wouldn't say regret. I mean, look, Tim Settle was such a big part of this defense, and I know that you can be like, well, he was a fourth on the depth, but he wasn't really. I mean, the way that they all rotated, he was very good. You always felt confident in the D-line. You still kind of do, but obviously you can't lose Matt Ioannidis and Tim Settle, two players like that, and just draft one rookie. And I understand he's a second-round pick. I think Fedarian Mathis is going to be very good, but it's not going to be the same. It's going to take a little bit. So I don't think we're necessarily regretting it, but I think like if we would have more money, if we wouldn't have to spend all this money on a quarterback, you know what I'm saying? Then I think we would have been like, hell yeah, come on back, Settle. We'll settle with you.
Yeah,
we had to though.
I was regretting that move, Colonel, the day that it happened. I'm a Hokie boy. I've been a fan of Tim Settle. I wanted us to draft him when he came here. As much as the argument wants to be made that he was the fourth defensive tackle, the only reason he was the fourth is because they gave a contract to Matt Ioannidis, and so he was getting paid more, so he was up in the depth chart. Tim Settle was outplaying him last season. I think nobody is going to be able to confuse those two.
Definitely.
But it was a great move by the Buffalo Bills. And I think Tim Settle wanted playing time. He didn't want to rotate anymore. He wanted to be the starter. He wanted to be Jonathan Allen on his own team. And I can respect that for him. I'm not going to blame the organization for that. Sometimes those things just happen. And but I was regretting it because Tim Settle is a very talented young man, and he's going to do great in Buffalo. It's unfortunate he's not going to be able to do it with us anymore, but we benefited from his play the past couple seasons. But I regretted it the day that he left, man. What about you, Rio?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're definitely. I don't know if we're like regretting it right now. We definitely. We let two guys out the building. I talked to some Carolina guys last week. Matt Ioannidis isn't exactly setting the world on fire in Charlotte right now. Yeah. And we know he didn't really vibe with Sam Mills, who's no longer here. Remember those reports came out that he was like refusing the coaching that he was getting here.
Back in 2020.
Yep, that was
that's
2
right.
years
I completely forgot about that.
Yep, yeah. It was Ioannidis, and every time you heard that there were players that were refusing the coaching technique, it was Ioannidis, big Greek assassin. But I'm definitely gonna miss Tim Settle for more than just the football reasons too. He was one of the guys in the locker room, man. Like he was one of the glue guys in the locker room. He's a lovable, personable character. I wish nothing but the success for him. But he's not here no more. So I need Deron Payne to play as if he wants to be here long term, or whether he's going to audition for the rest of the league. I need him to ball out and match that Jonathan Allen intensity, because that guy is damn near elite. And I need to see what this space eater Fedarian Mathis we got out of Bama, what he's talking about. I need this D-line to live up to the expectations that we set for it, because it felt like we spent 4 to 5 years building a defense, and they haven't hit that pinnacle yet. So I need Jack to get these boys right up front, man.
Yeah, hopefully they will. Hopefully the competition level will balance that out, and that's a big hope of ours. What do you think, Hall?
Only us would build it, like take 4 or 5 years to build a defense up, and then the league just automatically switches to an offensive league as soon as we build it up. But I think in the short term, it's definitely going to hurt us because obviously, like y'all talked about, not only just on the field, but off the field, Tim Settle just meshes with Buffalo, honestly. He just fits in that locker room, kind of just like, I feel like his personality just fits that team.
Like throwing dildos
Definitely
on the
wish we
field.
would've-
Tim Settle would love that.
Exactly.
Keeping a
No, I
woman in
definitely
his
think that,
basement like Buffalo Bill. Why is that team named after a serial killer?
Buffalo,
A
baby.
fictional one too. It's
They're
Same reason they
named
jumped
after
through tables.
OJ?
Cancel.
yeah.
I think the short term is going to hurt us because obviously I don't think Mathis is going to be able to match what Tim Settle brought to this team and to this locker room in the beginning. But in the long term, I definitely think it plays out a little bit better for this team. I definitely think that Mathis is more that space eater, what they want to do on the defensive line, that with the tackles, and him getting this rotation, heavy rotation now that it's kind of thin on that line, he's going to get that heavy rotation, a lot of reps and game reps too. So I think he'll come along a little bit faster than Tim Settle did, and get a little bit more reps than Tim Settle just because of the depth. So I think long term it'll work out, but in the short term, maybe like this season, it'll definitely hurt us a little bit.
Yeah, and that's okay. But look, we'll be fine. I think so. I think I trust all the boys on the defensive line as much as I can. But this next question from the Discord chat, Rio, and this is from our guy Jeff Miles. Whatever happened to Torrey McTyer? He was promising last year until his injury.
That's a great question.
Right.
What did happen to Torrey McTyer? Did he ever recover from his
Tell
injury?
me, Jeff.
I ain't heard his name since, bro. That's a great. We might need to put an APB out for Torrey McTyer
Can we
because
find this man?
I would like to see what he has. I know who Danny Johnson is, and he was out there getting cooked a little bit last week in that preseason game. McTyer, he was still in the show before that injury in that game last year. But Jeff, I have no idea where Torrey McTyer. I don't know what's going on with my guy. The way players heal after they get hurt in Ashburn is one big enigma. We got Walter White Heisenberg Jr., who just got suspended by the league and got his conviction today. Things are weird in Ashburn in the training office. I have no idea what's going on with Torrey McTyer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now
He got
Jeff's,
addicted to meth because of Ryan Vermillion, and now he's
the next question from Jeff Rio. I want to go to you with this one. Is anyone else freaking out about Gibby? Granted, this example was much older, not drafted by us, but Adrian Peterson had 1,000 rushing yards and a 900 rushing right before he got cut. Gibby hasn't improved his fumbling, and now they have him working out with the second and third team, even special teams, which I don't care if he did it in college. If he has a fumbling problem, I don't want him returning kicks. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, one, fans need to, there's two sides to it. We're not wishing him harm, or we're not wishing him off the roster, and at the same time we want to hold him accountable because we need to hold these players accountable just like we hold the coaches accountable. If you're not executing, next man up. We drafted a running back in the third round for a reason, and that boy looks every bit the part of a bell cow every down back. The thing that's not talked about enough is that fumbles may not even be the main issue for Gibson. He's indecisive and he lacks vision for a natural running back because he's still learning the position. So when you see this Bama boy with that Alabama grit come in, he's decisive. He runs north-south. He can catch the ball. He can do everything you need a starting running back to do. And the guy that you've been playing the last 2 years is still learning it. It definitely is eye-popping. So I would love to see how he bounces back from this because he looked very dejected. I felt so bad for him taking that jog of shame onto the field with Taylor Heineke in the twos. I know it had to suck at practice running with the threes, with the scout team and fielding punts and on the punt team, but that's what happens. Ron and them are setting a standard. Everyone's going to be held accountable. Do better or you're going to be a scat back, spell back, and the rookie is going to get the start, which I think is going to happen week one anyway.
Yeah, I'm not really flipping out about Gibby, to be perfectly honest with you. I will say this. I know it's probably stupid to say, but I'm glad that the fumble happened in the preseason, not the regular season.
Me too.
Oh, there's still plenty of time.
It's a wake-up
understand.
call. Basically, you have to take this legitimately seriously. Yes, last season was last season, but it's starting to show itself again. And if this continues, we can't put you on the field. But that being said, it is a running back by committee, and you have to be able to use them at their strengths. But you don't want to have a liability out in the field where turnovers ruin games for you in the NFL, where every inch matters and you can have a game flip on one play. Gibby cannot be putting the ball on the turf, and I think this wake-up call was perfect timing for him to get ready for the season. That being said, was he ever the bell cow? I don't think he was. I don't think we should have ever considered that. The only reason I think that we did is because J.D. McKissick got injured last season, and so he was kind of forced into that role. So that's why Rivera and company kind of went and got a bruiser back, and Brian Robinson to kind of spell that away. But
And if I may add too, it wasn't just the preseason fumble. The practice I was at 4 days before
he
that
fumbled on the goal line.
Yeah,
he
that's right.
fumbled on the goal line, and he fumbled during 2 team sessions that day, and one was on 4th and goal when they do situational at the end of practice. So it was very glaring. I have it as a short on my channel. He fumbled the ball in the air like hot potato, but like you can't do it, man.
No, and it'd be disingenuous to say it was just because of the fumble, because the vision does go into it. You see the difference between him and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, he runs with authority. He knows where he's going. He's hard-nosed. He falls forward. He runs with authority. Antonio Gibson's still kind of running like trepidatious. He's still taking tiptoes because he's not 100% sure yet. And you want him to be able to get that ASAP.
Also, to add on to it, I mean, we knew that Brian Robinson was going to cut into his carries. We all talked about it, about how it was probably going to end up being better for Gibson to not touch the ball so much because he'd have less opportunities to fumble. Fumbling when he did didn't really help things. But I think that we all did kind of underestimate Brian Robinson. We were thinking like a Peyton Barber type role at first when he was drafted, and it's definitely going to be a lot more than that. So I think it could be a good thing, man. This can let AG. He's a big play waiting to happen, man. The guy's still talented as hell. He can take it to the house at any time. So if you can get him back there on kicks and you just let him do that a few times a game, and you can bring him in occasionally on offense, just get him out on some swing passes or just get the ball in his hand in space. Look out, because he's going to produce for you. He's going to pick up good games if he holds on to the ball.
Yeah, and Hall, I know this is your boy. You liked him when we drafted him.
That's
what
the
are your
Gibson
thoughts?
guy right there.
Oh, no, I can't hear you. Oh, you just froze. There you go. Talk. Try now. Nope, can't hear you at all. All right, let's move on to the next question. Reed, I want to go to you with this first. This is from Big Tony Shivers. This is the perfect question for you. What's with Irsay's constant over-obsession with Wentz? Worry about your own team.
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. We talked about it a little bit beforehand, Kyle. Jim Irsay. So I am 100% convinced that Jim Irsay has just completely fried his brain with drugs over the years. And that now that he's in his old age, he's like, we all know old people like that just talk and they say stuff all the time and they can't get certain things. Yeah, they can't get certain things out of their head and they'll say it and you're like, why? We're at Thanksgiving. What are you talking about politics for right now? What's going on? And like, they just can't, like, they can't get it out of their head. He's like obsessed with Carson Wentz right now. And it's bad when you have that much money and you got somebody who I love, and Pat McAfee's a cool dude, but like also he's definitely pumping rainbows into Jim Irsay's ass and getting paid by him or something because they just can't keep Carson Wentz's name out of their mouths. It's been so long now. Like, get over. What is wrong with you, Jim Irsay? You need to check yourself into a rehab. Please get help. This is a cry for help, if anything.
It reminds me of the one time we were partying at our place up in Frederick. I think Hall was there, and there was this guy, rest in peace, who was there, and he wasn't in our conversation. We were just in a group talking about, drinking beers or whatever. Out of nowhere, he says, "Koi fish."
Yeah.
And we all kind of like looked at him. We were like,
bro, everyone stopped and was like, what?
And like, that's what it reminds me. That's what.
I hope y'all immediately got out of that room.
Oh yeah, that guy's definitely gonna try to put some in your drinks.
Yeah. So, but basically, like, that's what you kind of feel like with Irsay whenever he talks. It's kind of like, what are you talking about? And it's
you just got to let the old drug addict do what he does.
Yeah.
Let him talk, 'cause he's
but
rich.
I will say, Tony, I think the Colonel was right in his estimation of where the root of it comes from, and the fact is that Irsay literally cannot he can't help himself to bring up Carson Wentz at any time because what Pat McAfee asked him about his Super Bowl window, and he starts talking about how the quarterback last season didn't do all that well for us to be able to get there.
But Matt Ryan's a Super Bowl quarterback for him.
And so the reason
sure.
why I think that, Tony, is because Jim Irsay is doing that to deflect from his decisions and the decisions that he's implementing because it's making the team worse, and they're falling short. And instead of putting the blame on himself, he's pushing it to Carson as much as he should with all of these questions that surface. So when Pat McAfee asks him about the Super Bowl window, because it's directly coordinated to Jim Irsay, he says, oh, yeah, because it was Carson, he put us in a bad spot with Matt Ryan, we're Super Bowl window. He's blaming everything on Carson, not taking responsibility for his decisions. That's all.
Or the rest of the team playing like ass those final 2 weeks.
Well, that's what I mean.
Exactly.
Now, the next question from Scotty is basically a pop-off of Tony's. And I'm going to go to you, Rio. One final point, Lowe's to say this week, why is there so much shade thrown at Carson? He threw 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,500 passing yards, is much better than Carson with 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and almost 4,000 yards passing. He's saying this is getting pathetic from the media. I agree with you, dude. I don't know where the root of all of this is, Scotty. I am upset. It's annoying to constantly hear this about Carson. Look, we know Carson's not a world beater. We know he's not Aaron. We know he's not Tom. We know he's not Russell Wilson. But he's better than what we've had.
Real fast, and he makes boneheaded plays, but for somebody who makes so many boneheaded plays, he sure as hell doesn't turn the ball over that much. If you look at his career statistics,
he doesn't, and that's why it's a joke when people talk about how he's a turnover machine.
Right?
Yes, his turnovers are some of the most ridiculous turnovers you've seen. He threw like 6 left-handed passes last year. He was pretty much just he's giving gifts to the other team, but he's usually a 7-pick guy a year.
But every year it's 7 picks, except for that 1 year in 2019.
Yeah, and the COVID year. And he had like no line and no receivers, and it was a complete S show out there that whole year. But Carson is a damn good quarterback, and I need to know the secret because I've met this dude a few times now. I've seen how he operates. I've seen how teammates respond to him. I see how coaches talk about him. I see how former teammates talk about him. Why do people hate this man so much? Is it because he looks like Prince Harry? Do people hate Prince Harry? Like, what is it?
Yeah. No, that's true though.
They didn't hate Prince Harry until he started doing all that jazz, leaving the
every coach and every player that Carson's played with has had his back. It's always the upper management that hasn't. That's why I think when Jason said that, I think that was more like Jason kind of putting a point out there that like, dude, the front office, we all want you here. Like, this is so much bigger than just like Frank Reich sticking up for him. Like, this is like the team president finally sticking up for him.
Y'all heard awkward ass Dan in that conference.
We finally got us a quarterback
now.
We finally got a quarterback.
It's like Dan.
Look, I've said this so many times. He's Michael Scott from The Office. That's
the most awkward,
but like way more dangerous around
cheerleaders. Guy ever. Yeah. I just want him to be followed with a camera all the time.
I bet you'll get some gold out of him. Not like his gold. Like that.
Now let's move on to our next question. Hall, I'm gonna go to you first. This is from our guy Hercules. Will you have more confidence in the defense if it stops Kansas City from scoring on their first drive?
I wouldn't say if they stop them on their first drive because they can come out their second, third, fourth, fifth drive and just march up and down the field on us. And then that first drive would mean nothing if they get a stop on them. Would I like to see them come out and get a stop? Yes, because how many times last year did an offense come out, receive the ball, and just drive right down the field on us, either put up 6 or 3 points on us. So I would like to see them come out, maybe at least if they give up a couple first downs, it is what it is. Bend, don't break. Don't give up any points that first drive, but I want to see consistency. I don't want to see just one drive. I want to see 1, 2, 3 drives in a row where they come out, stifle that offense, or at least hold them, because you can't really stifle them, hold them to minimal yards, minimal points if possible. So, yeah, one drive doesn't really mean anything to me. I want to see consistency over a couple drives and maybe even the whole first half or however long they play.
Yeah, I would like to see them stop them on their first drive. I'd like for them to stop them on every drive. I'm not going to lie to you, Hercules. But it would build confidence to be able to come out with that because they did not start out well, obviously, against Baker Mayfield. And that offense is not as good as Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid's style of offense.
Didn't even have DJ Moore out there.
Right, so it would be really good to have them stop them on the first drive. It would build more confidence for me. What do you think, Rio?
Yeah, it would be nice to, first of all, I want to see us come out and have cornerbacks that are not 8 yards off the ball. So for starters, that would help. Secondly, to get off the field on the third down, especially the first third down of the game, I might be good to go there. Like I might not need to see anything else from the starting defense. I need to see communication, like the way the DBs hand off receivers to each other. I don't need to see Kendall Fuller completely lost and letting bum ass Sam Darnold throw a touchdown on us after Gibson gifted them the ball. But I just need to see some continuity out of the defense. When Montez Sweat, he gets home a lot, but he doesn't get home, you know. He gets there, but he doesn't walk in the house. He gets to the quarterback, but he never walks in, you know. Corral the quarterback, take him down. Montez Sweat should have like 14 sacks this year because he's like unblockable. He's in the backfield every play. I'm tired of seeing Chase Young and Montez Sweat run past quarterbacks, but I just want to see. This is a great test because Mahomes is supposed to play a whole half versus us. This is a great test of what this defense looks like and where it stands right now. And it'll tell us a lot about where Jack Del Rio's like what the temperature of his seat's going to be like this year.
Totally agree.
100%. And also, I mean, just to add to what you guys have all said, I want to see Jamin Davis out there flying around. I want to see him getting in on some coverages and making some tackles or blowing up some screens, you know, chasing down Mahomes when he gets out of the pocket. I think we, you know, I mean, this is a game of momentum, and when we saw it in 2020, when our defense had momentum and we were on that roll, that we couldn't really be. There wasn't anybody that we couldn't stop. So I think that if you can get this moment
defensively,
for sure.
All right, now Reed, I want to go to you with this next question from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi! With the squad being down to the bones, what would constitute a good result at Kansas City for you?
So obviously, like we just talked about, seeing the starters be competitive, because obviously Kansas City's Kansas City, and as long as we get out of there with no injuries and we see some big plays from either the offense or the defense, one of those sides of the ball completely steps up and we get out there injury free. You know, we got some Stephen Parker, some of these Ross bubble guys make a few plays. I'm going to be happy, but that's of course a perfect world. Perfect world doesn't exist unless your name is Logan Paulsen, because you're always happy. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's all about health, Scott. I think it would be a success. It would be a good result if they got out of there without Carson getting injured, without any of the offensive line getting injured, just being able to skate out of there without the starters getting banged up. Because at this point, I know I've said many, many times, you're going to get injured throughout the season. This is the only sport where you're guaranteed to be injured at some point in your career. It's going to happen, but I'd rather that happen during games that matter, that actually generate towards something rather than it being preseason. Health would be the best result for me personally if everyone got out of there healthy. What do you think, Rio?
Yep. Health is definitely the number one and almost only thing when it comes to the preseason, but I want to see some guys take command of their position. I would like to see Brian Robinson just completely take control of the running back. Like, there's no more controversy or conversation after this week. This is your starting running back. I'd like to see a nice Curtis Samuel flash play, because every time he's in, he's flash. The whole thing is if he's going to be on the field or not. I'd like to see Carson take a couple shots down the field again. He tried one to Terry last week. He gave him a chance, despite the fact that it was a little underthrown. I think if he put it a little farther out there, though, Terry might have got demolished on on some Heineke death ball type stuff. Because, you know, Heineke is good to get a receiver killed once a week. He got Diami demolished the other day.
He hates his receivers. Yeah.
He definitely hates his receivers. I don't know what their relationship is, but he definitely
they
tries.
owe money.
He probably do. But the other thing I'm looking for Sam Howell to keep building on what he's doing so we can slowly phase Heineke out of the backup quarterback spot and to get him in holding a Surface Pro as the third string.
Yeah, that would be the future. I would love to hear that. Hall, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, like you guys said, health is definitely the biggest, number one. Put a star next to that. That's number one. Everyone get out of there healthy, or at least healthy enough to be able to come back week one. And I definitely want to see the offense have a couple drives strung together where it's not just 3 and out. I want to have a couple first downs here and there.
Sustainable drives.
Sustainable drives, a couple 7 to 10 play drives, get some points on the board. And then vice versa, I want to see the defense not give up a 12, 13, 14 play drive to Kansas City. Or I don't want to see shades of last year where Mahomes just drops back and just bombs it deep to MVS and the communication on the back end is bad and they're getting burnt deep again. I want to see strides from last year, pretty much from the defense.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now let's move on to our next question. This is from Commander OC. So I want you guys to answer this with a yes or no question. If you like it, you love it, or you hate it. He asks, voice of the fans, I got a mascot idea. A commander hog with 2 super dogs named Burgundy and Gold. What do you think? The hog would be the mascot person, and the dogs would be the 2 real super dogs. What do you think, Rio?
That sounds very complicated and complex situation. It sounds cool. It sounds like something out of a Disney.
Checks all the boxes.
movie.
It's
It
just
does
a lot.
He combined all 4 options into one mascot.
It's the big conglomerate of fan opinions put into one mascot.
Yeah.
You know what? Sure, I'm with it because that keeps a lot of parties happy. I like it. I like
That's
it.
true.
I like the
That's
way
true.
OC thinks. He's absolutely right. It
Yeah.
just makes everybody happy in a way.
I dig it. I dig it.
No, I really, honestly, OC, I think it's a great idea because what you're doing is you're attributing to the past the connection with the hog, and then you have the German Shepherd with the connection to the military. They have a lot to do with the military. I see what you're doing there. It's very smart. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really care. It's just a mascot at the end of the day, but I understand why it's important. I do. I understand at the end of the day.
You do more than anybody. Remember, you were the high school you were the mascot in high school. You used to wear that suit and do backflips, but you couldn't.
Dude, my
you
high
wouldn't
school didn't even have a mascot.
Kyle
Yeah, no,
definitely
they
looks
did,
like,
though, and it was-
Kyle definitely looks like he could do a backflip.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's probably his weird
In my
secret white
trampoline
skill.
days, yeah, dude, I used to love going on trampolines all day.
You would be
bro.
one of those guys. You still like 30. You get on a trampoline with
Oh,
your,
yeah.
like your nieces and nephews and bust out a backflip.
Oh, yeah,
and you expect them to be
easily,
like,
all
"Oh my
day
god,
long.
Uncle Kyle!" And they're like, "All right, cool,
King of the
man,
moon
yeah."
bounce.
And then I'm the cool
Moon
guy
bounce
for the
is
day.
yeah okay. If you can do a backflip on a moon bounce, though, that's kind of tight.
Yeah, that's
But
different.
yes or no, Hall Reed.
No.
Reed.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on there, and I love it. But
All right, our next question is from
for
Jamal
me,
on
dog.
Twitter.
I just want to
Go-
see big old dancing W on the field. How about that?
I know. I call him Dubby. I want a guy in
There
a
it
suit
is.
dressed
and have
in a
Jameis
W
Winston come
with
up and eat
arms
him.
and legs and
Yeah.
just call him Dubby.
Yeah, that's smart,
good.
actually. I'm all
That's
for
yeah.
that. Let's sign off on that. Now, Lo, let's go to our next question. Jamal, Go Hokies 92. Go Hokies, woo! He asks, Reed, what are some of your must-haves for a new Commander Stadium?
Ooh, for a new Commander Stadium, it's got to. I'll just give one out there. It's got to be have a retractable roof. It's got to be. You know, I mean,
Have to be
when it's nice
retractable.
out, yeah. When it's nice out, you keep that pitch open. When it's shitty out, as much as I love football in bad weather, I also like good football more so than I like that. So like, let's close that bitch and let's
Yeah.
eliminate the elements.
For me, it's got to have the aesthetic look. It's got to be on the water. It's got to have a kind of euphoric kind of feeling about the stadium. We can't. I PG. I love PG. Look, we're from the area. I get it. It's just you don't get that from PG. If we're being honest, they could build it up all they want. You're not going to get that feeling from PG.
Bring
Okay.
that thing down to Virginia.
Look, I would love for it to be on the water, on the Potomac. The Ravens did it perfectly with the way they do it. When you're coming over the bridge, you're looking at that stadium and its beauty. That's the kind of thing you want for the Commanders. And I think on the Potomac is the biggest thing that I truly, truly want. What about you, Hall?
Well, they already got the license for the sports book at FedEx now.
Yeah, so you're sold.
Yeah, you already got. You got to have a kiosk within eyesight of my seat, of every seat.
Yeah.
So, or
So Hawk can ruin
Next
his
level.
goddamn life.
have them at your seats already.
Pretty much.
Have a built-in little betting kiosk thing at everyone's seat, or at everyone. I have a couple seats.
Jesus.
Bam.
And
Money
actually,
maker.
Hall, you screwed up because I would say your one thing is to have shorter lines for the concessions to get beers and stuff. What about like beer vending machines? That'd
Also,
probably
lower
help.
the prices because someone like they just did the comparison of like other stadiums and our stadium. Like
It's very
you
expensive.
gotta lower those.
It's
They're not
Atlanta's
lowering
still
the
like
prices
$3
when
a
that
beer.
state of the art
Oh,
stadium.
I know.
No,
Trust
oh,
me, I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
saying,
they
like it's
keep-
crazy.
One of the reasons that they could be doing that is to force people to not drink as much because of the fights at the stadium. They had people die at the stadium from fights and stuff. So that would be a reason to kind of calm everyone down
But
during
wouldn't
the game.
cheaper beer make more people go get more beer? So
Yes.
like,
But
it
that's,
goes
that's,
both
the, that's
ways.
the point. They don't want you wasted during the game. They don't care how much you
I
tailgate.
get you saying. I get you saying. Yeah.
You know,
Please
pissed
stop
I'd be
it.
if I.
Please,
If,
people stop being wasted at games. There are
Yeah.
children there.
do you know how
And-
pissed I would be if I got? Oh, my bad, Reed. My shit froze. Keep going.
No, you're good. Like, why fight at a stadium? First of all, I'm not fighting you at the stadium. Like, you can try to fight me. I'm gonna go get the closest usher and get your ass escorted
Right.
right about the stadium. There are children around, and we pay too much money for these seats
Yep.
to let some bozo who's mad that his team is losing to
Right.
get, and then be us fighting our own fans. Like,
Right.
Yeah. You know how
That's
pissed I would be if I got murdered at a stadium or something, and then 3-4 years later the team left and went and built a new one, so I just had to haunt some empty halls of like some ghost town. Like
You
Haunt
died
the
for
halls of
nothing.
PG.
yeah,
died
That's
for
messed
nothing.
up. Somebody lost their
That-
life. That's not funny.
no, I know that's not funny, but
That's morbid as hell.
Now, this
Oh,
next
yeah,
question,
bro.
we got to go rapid fire here, boys. Last question, Scott Hartley. Outside of our division, what's the most competitive division? He says for him, it's the AFC West. 3 teams that could make the playoffs. I totally agree. I think
I think
everyone
4 of
else.
them could make the
Four
four
teams
of
that
them
can make the play. That's the division of death.
Any single one of those teams you can make an argument for.
All right,
They're
Rio-
all so
Probably
good in
win
the
MVP
AFC West.
this year.
Yeah, Rio, this next question is for you. This is from Aki G. What are you guys more confident in? Curtis Samuel's playing a full season or Carson Wentz leading us to a winning season?
Carson Samuel. I didn't put them together. They had a love child. Carson Wentz leading us to a successful season, and I'm going to already say my bold prediction is 30 touchdowns, which has not been done since 1967, and 4,000 yards for Carson Wentz, and the playoffs, 11 wins. I'm digging it. I'm buying into all of the new commander-ness, and I'm ready to go.
I would
And only
absolutely
7
love that
picks,
stat
too,
line from
like
Carson Wentz
always.
because his average is around, I think 35 with 3,500 passing yards and then around 20-something touchdowns. So I would absolutely love that. I mean, that's an uptick, but I agree with you. I'm confident in Carson with a winning season, given with the strength of schedule and everything like that. I have more confidence in that than Curtis Samuel because it's not like Curtis Samuel's injury prone. Just the NFL, that's the nature of the beast. You're going to get dinged up, and so I'd put more confidence in Carson with a winning season. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, it depends what he would say constitute as a full season for Curtis Samuel. If he plays all 17 games as a full season, no, I don't expect that. So I would go with Carson leading us to the playoffs or leading us to a successful season. I guess that would be the playoffs technically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the easiest one would be Carson leading us to the successful season.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Tim
do you
Towner,
think,
you
Reed?
had a similar question to one that was asked in the Discord chat server. I apologize, brother. You're the man. He always sends me questions on here, so I really appreciate you, Tim. I want you to keep doing that. It's just I've messed up and didn't use
Reed's
yours
so
first.
left out.
That's my bad. No,
I kind of
Sorry,
like
Reed.
Kyle with Tim's question. I'm just sitting there. You're leaving everybody out, Kyle.
sorry. Reed, if you need, yes.
I don't have to know. It's Carson.
Yeah, it's easy. Thank you. Okay.
But anyway, though,
All right,
no,
everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode.
but it's also Carson because I'm just kidding.
Rio, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and joining us, brother. Last minute and stuff. I know you're very, very busy nowadays. Going to training camp dang near
Yeah.
every day, updating everybody, coming out with a bunch of videos, updating everyone what's going on with training camp and everything. Really appreciate you taking some time out to join us, brother.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Absolutely. And then we're going to
Hell
see
yeah.
you, obviously, at week 1 when the UK boys come over. It's going to be a heck of a time.
Oh,
All right,
no.
everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in this episode. Good luck. Hopefully, the good health for the Commanders after they play the Chiefs tomorrow. The Commanders and Chiefs, baby. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way, you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!